Are you facing a writing block? Do you find yourself in that blank and constipated state where the words won't come? You're not alone. I've been there too, and I'm pretty sure I'll be there again. In this video, I will talk you through 4 general techniques that I've found that have helped me, that still help me. I suppose that especially for those of us who bring a wealth of experience to our creative writing, the feeling of being stuck can be a real challenge. After a lifetime of working to deadlines and producing results on schedule, perhaps keeping not only yourself motivated and productive, but also others, junior team members, students, suddenly, in the midst of a creative project that you have taken on for joy, suddenly you can't write. I suppose I should be upbeat and sell you this video with the promise that it contains fully tested, foolproof routes to unblock your creative guts. Laxatives for the brain. But I won't lie to you, some of these ideas may not work for you. I mean, we're each of us individuals, after all, and our blocks can be individuals too. As a writer friend recently pointed out, each block we face can be different from the last, so that what worked last time may not work again. However, these block-breaking techniques have worked for me, and for other writers too, so there is a good chance that they'll help you. You won't lose out by trying them at any rate. But first, does writer's block even exist? Reading around in preparation for this video, I was surprised to find a small number of professional writers who claimed that writer's block is a myth. There's no such thing, says Nick Harkaway. Buckle down, writing's a job, says Lois Lowry. Well, for some people, maybe it doesn't exist, but there are an awful lot of writers who are all too familiar with it. Sometimes it blights their careers. Harper Lee famously published her first novel, To Kill a Mockingbird, to great acclaim in 1960 when she was 34 years old. She was unable to write another. Her block lasted to the end of her life in 2016. She was then 89, so her block lasted 55 years. Her second novel, Go Set a Watchman, which was promoted as a sequel or a prequel, was actually edited up from her original draft of Mockingbird. Okay, Harper Lee is an extreme example. Most people don't get blocked that bad. But even the amazingly prolific Stephen King has admitted to facing writer's block on a few occasions. For most of us, it threatens. So what to do when the words go into hiding? The first trick I have to share involves using your most readily available sounding board, which is yourself. Seriously, I recommend talking it out with yourself. Try explaining your story idea, the scene that you're stuck on, your character's motivations. Explain it out loud. Now, the idea of talking to yourself can feel a little odd. I certainly still get self-conscious about doing this. I like to be sure I am alone at home when I use this technique, or out on a walk with not another soul in sight. But you know, it's a funny thing how times change. With the rise of hands-free mobile phones and earbuds, walking down the street while appearing to have an intense conversation with yourself has become almost commonplace. No one bats an eyelid. Well, no one under 35 anyway. While that's been a bit of a societal shift, the core benefit remains. Articulating your thoughts can unlock new pathways in your writing. And if talking to yourself still feels uncomfortable, then why not do like Tom Hanks in the film Castaway and create your own private Wilson?
Well, regardless, I would rather take my chance out there on the ocean than to stay here and die on this shithole island, spending the rest of my life talking to a goddamn volleyball!
Well, maybe don't lose your temper, but imagine you have a very patient, very insightful listener right with you. It could be your favourite author, a wise friend, your muse, if you want to invoke the romantic or the classical. Explain your writing woes to them. You might be surprised at the clarity that emerges from the act of verbalizing your struggles to an imaginary ear. Of course, if you give house room to one of those newfangled personal assistants, I'm trying to demonstrate my age here, Alexa, Siri, or what have you, you might want to turn them off before starting this exercise, though maybe a conversation with an AI might help. I mean, let the rest of us know in the comments. The next suggestion is to get a little more intimate with the people who populate your fictional worlds. If you're stuck on where the story is going or what a character would do next, try this. Have a conversation with them. Literally ask them questions. Ask them, what are you feeling right now? What is your biggest fear at the moment? What do you really think of this other character I've put you in a relationship with? You might be surprised at the answers you get. It's like they have their own stories to tell. They just need the invitation. Or take it a step further. Ask your characters to write you a letter. Write a diary entry maybe. You channel them and write it yourself, of course, but they tell you what to write. Get them to tell you about the story you are writing, but from their own perspective. What are their thoughts on events so far? What are their hopes and anxieties about what's to come? This can provide a wonderfully fresh angle on your narrative and reveal plot points and character nuances you had not considered. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend Jill Barup's brilliant series of shorts that laid the ground for her 2024 publishing success, Just Stab Me Now. Her characters and an imagined author recount a fantasy story as they argue with one another about character and plot development and historical accuracy and tropes and cliches. It's great fun. And it shows how far communicating directly with your characters has the potential to carry you. Another thing to try is to get your characters to complete a personality questionnaire. You know the sort of thing. 12 questions, or however many, about a mix of subjects. Model your questions on the Proust questionnaire from Vanity Fair, or The Guardian's Q&A, or on NPR's Wildcard with Rachel Martin, or even on the questions in Stephen Colbert's parody, The Colbert Questionnaire. You can find them all online. Or give them a tarot card reading. You might invite your character to complete an online psychological assessment, something like the Big Five personality test, for example. Do it against the clock. Do it in character against the clock and see what answers your characters produce. You don't have to incorporate any of this into your work in progress, but it might give you a different insight into their personalities and motives, and it might help you break through your writer's block. Now, let's switch gears and engage our senses in a different way. If the digital world is feeling stifling, try going analog. Pick up a pen and paper. There is something about the physical act of writing longhand that can bypass the critical editor in our brains. The slower pace can allow for more organic thought flow, and it opens up to unexpected connections. Don't worry about perfection, just let the words spill onto the page. You may be familiar with Julia Cameron's Morning Pages exercise. It's a popular method for creatives to start the day. Cameron recommends it as a means to unblock creativity. You write 3 pages longhand as your first writing exercise of the day. You write anything that comes into your head. It doesn't need to lead anywhere, and it might be a dream, an account of the previous day, a to-do list, a free verse poem, anything at all. After that exercise, you are limbered up for your writing day. Now, personally, I find morning pages very helpful as a more or less daily discipline. But you can harness it to break your block whenever you need it. It doesn't have to be at the beginning of the day. Write anything. Write a description of the room where you are. List the things you can see or hear around you. Write about the smell of your morning coffee. Write about the memories you associate with the taste of that Madeleine cake you are eating. Or write about the story you're working on. Write about the problem that is stopping you from moving on. Try to describe it concretely. Maybe doing this will help you see how you can take the story forward. You may well find yourself writing characters, scenes, or dialogue that could find a place in your work in progress. Great. Once you have a decent chunk of text, here's a modern twist on an old technique. Dictation. Use speech recognition software to transcribe your handwritten words into your computer. Reading your words aloud, whether as dictation from longhand or just reading it off the digital screen, can also be a fantastic way to hear your story in a new way. It will help you catch clunky phrasing or repetitive language. Plus, it feels a bit like telling your story in the old way to an audience around the campfire, to children at bedtime. But doing this might reignite that initial spark. Finally, and this might seem counterintuitive when you feel like you should be writing, but sometimes the very best thing you can do with writer's block is to walk away. Do something else. Literally walk away. Go for a long walk. Leave your notebook, your laptop, everything work-related behind. Though I do recommend you take a small notepad and a pen tucked into a pocket, or your smartphone switched off or set to aeroplane mode. Let your mind wander. The rhythmic movement of walking, the change of scenery, the fresh air, the simple act of disconnecting can work wonders. It can untangle those mental knots you've got yourself tied up in. Walking is a favourite technique used by many writers. Charles Dickens was famous for taking long walks through the streets of London. Virginia Woolf, likewise, though she preferred to walk in the countryside. But stepping away doesn't have to be literal. This is what Hilary Mantel has to say. If you get stuck, get away from your desk. Take a walk, take a bath, go to sleep, make a pie, draw, listen to music, meditate, exercise. Whatever you do, don't just sit there scowling at the problem. But don't make telephone calls or go to a party. If you do, other people's words will pour in where your lost words should be. Open a gap for them, create a space. Be patient. For me, my stepping away can be a walk in the park or by the sea, or it can be a swim. Think of it as giving your subconscious the space it needs to work on the problem without the pressure of actively trying to solve it. You may be surprised how often inspiration strikes when you are not actively chasing it. Sometimes you then face another problem, holding on to the solution long enough to record it. That's when your notepad comes into play, or the positive side of a smartphone. Use the phone to record your thoughts as a voice memo or a text. I have to say, the phone isn't a lot of good when I'm swimming. I have to practice holding on to good ideas in my memory. That is a good exercise in itself, and it works 80% of the time. So there you have it. A few tried and trusted techniques to put into practice in those moments when your writing feels stuck. Remember, this is a journey. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And every writer, I'm sorry Nick Harkaway, Lois Lowry, almost every writer at every age faces these hurdles. Be patient with yourself. Trust that the stories within you are waiting to be told. I've made this for you, but I've made it as much for me as a reminder to myself of all the things I have tried and can try again when I find myself blocked. Because I forget. What are your thoughts on navigating these creative pauses? Maybe you could share some of the things you've found helpful in the comments. I'd certainly be interested to learn new techniques. Thanks for spending time with me today. May your writing days be filled with inspiration, and may you never need any of the suggestions in this video, because your words flow like water from a spring that never runs dry. Ah, there's the poet. Quick, end the video. Cheerio.